So welcome back to another episode of Anthony Meets. Now, if you're at all into your dance music scene, you will definitely know the chap I'm about to talk to next. I think massively came to light in the 90s, and definitely has a few stories to tell, I'm sure, from Ibiza. And the man behind the Mucky Weekender festival as well, Barry Ashworth of Dub Pistols. How the devil are you?
I'm good. As I said, I'm just currently on my way down to Dorset Festival, so I'm sitting in the I'm sitting in the front of it so that the rest of the band can't be rabble-rousing and making too much noise, so we can do this interview.
Love it.
That said, the air conditioning is not quite working, so I'm really it's a sweaty one.
They usually are whenever people are chatting, so don't worry about it. So look, let's start off. Mucky Weekender. Tell us all about that. What's happening?
It's Mucky Weekender. It takes place usually the second weekend in September, which used to be the old festival slot, which I used to do every year. It's down in Winchester, 8th and 9th of September this year.
Okay.
This is our 4th edition. I guess it started 5 years ago. We had 1 year off during lockdown. It's Mucky Weekender, which is named after one of our songs.
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of a coming of age clubbing song, which just involves going out and, just that mad, twisted life that evolves over a long weekend. Do you know what I mean?
Usually sitting in somebody's kitchen on the Sunday afternoon wearing somebody else's clothes, wondering what the hell has happened.
Covered in glitter. And probably having missed 3 planes. It's an 18+ festival. And that's not to say that we're anti-children or anything.
Yeah.
We just don't think our clientele are responsible enough to find their children.
And do I actually believe that as well? You'd have to have like a whole area of lost kids, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, the amount of festivals children, like Camp Festival and, child-oriented festivals that I go to, it's always the parents. The kids get lost. Obviously, there's safe environments because the kids are always picked up eventually somewhere in the perimeter.
Yeah.
And then and obviously they're tagged and marked and there'll always be, because I know production really well, they'll always get a phone call to the parents and the parents say, can you keep them for a couple of days? We're having too much fun.
Yeah, but no rush.
You know what I mean? So rather than incur that, and knowing ourselves, I'd rather not lose anybody's children, and I'd rather not take the liability on,
I think you're quite right, definitely. Let's talk about some of the lineup. So you've got Bez's House Party, Acid House Party. What else is happening?
We've got Bez's Acid House Party, which is obviously Bez. So, I mean, that just ticks the Mucky Weekender box, as you can imagine. You know what I mean?
As soon as you say that name, immediately you just go, all right, okay, yes, I'm booking a week or 2 off, yes.
It's great when you're straight, okay.
Yeah.
So we got Selector, one of my biggest influences growing up in my life with the two-tone ska movement. So, I was great friends with Terry Hall from the Specials, and the whole two-tone big thing's been a part. So for me, the Selector, as well as Madness, are the last bastion of that era. So I'm grateful to have them along. We've got the Faith Crew. I don't know if you know Terry Farley, the Old Boys Home crew, Smoking Joe, Terry Farley, Stuart Patterson, Dawley. We've got Andy Smith doing his boogie disco wonderland thing. We got Goldie, we got Mungo's Hi-Fi. It literally every genre of music's crossed. I mean, I'm of a certain age now, 57, where I've gone through every scene possible. So we've got 4 stages, and I've tried to tick as many boxes so that if something's not on for you on one stage, then you'll go and find what you like somewhere.
And that's brilliant, isn't it, actually, to have that, you know. And one of the things that I think I saw on one of your promotional flyers, you know, if you like rock, if you like rave kind of thing, this is the place to be. And actually, when I think back to the 90s, there was the ravers and the rockers, and they were very separate, actually, in certain areas. But here we all are together. I love that. But look, Barry, I can't talk to you without talking about your party days. And I know they're still going, clearly, but can you share any stories that you shouldn't probably share? Can you tell me anything from back
how
in
long
the
have
day?
how long have you got? I mean,
as long as you want to give me.
You know, I mean, my business is called What the Fuck Could Possibly Go Wrong Limited.
Yeah.
That's what I'm actually registered as. The Dub Pistols is registered as that. I'm not sure if Ross from PR told you, you know, we've got a documentary coming out, 20 years of, which is 26 years actually, of Dub Pistols, called What the Fuck Could Possibly Go Wrong, the history of the Dub Pistols.
Brilliant.
And, you know, it's just to tell, probably of most bands, of most people in the music or whatever industry, where we've, you know, sex and rock and roll doesn't even come into it. You know, it was debauched, and we always, every time we were given an opportunity, we managed to press the self-destruct button and implode, you know. So so in the documentary, but the thing is, I didn't realise how much of this 26 years of disaster that I've managed to capture on film.
Yeah.
Like, you know, having meltdowns, being thrown out and banned from countries, we had a serial killer for a tour bus driver, it's a true story. We were touring around Europe, and when we were sound checking, he was picking up bodies and putting them in the bus.
No.
So, you know, so things just, it was dark. And then I was, you know, and then years of clubbing, because I started as a DJ.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have a residency at Manumission, which I guess, you know, out in Ibiza, which back in the day, even for them, was quite risky. Yeah. It was definitely debauched. Do you know what I mean? You know, the Manumission Hotel with Howard Marks, and the after parties are just legendary. I mean, it was just twisted debauchery. And the thing is, it's you know, that's the life. In those days, I think people are more professional now in their approach. Certainly DJs and things coming up, but back in those days, it was just sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know, you know, I'm not going to hide from the facts, and that obviously will take me on to the fact that now I'm a patron for Tonic Music for Mental Health, because obviously when you combine all those things into the industry, and then you combine rejection, and then you combine substance abuse, then you combine alcohol, and then you know, and it leads to the breakdowns. You know, it leads to the Amy Winehouse scenarios, and it leads to the, you know, so now I'm a patron for Tonic Music for Mental Health, and I'm lucky enough to have survived all those stories that I'm telling you about, and come out the other side and lived, you know. I actually won Caner of the Year one year. I don't know if you remember DJ Magazine.
Yes, I do. Tony Prince was behind that, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
And Ben Turner, who used to be a Melody Maker. And I think I was the last person, I think I was the only person left who they could give it to. Do you know what I mean? It was like Brandon Block had got it, Dave Beer had got it. I can't remember who else got it, but when they said to me, "Oh, you've won Caner of the Year," first of all, I got a call from my manager, and she said, like, Barry, you've won an award. And I went, brilliant, you know, really excited. And I put the phone down, and I phoned up my partner, and I said, like, well, I've just won an award. Not DJ Magazine, Music Magazine, it's called, Music Magazine.
Right, okay,
And she said, well, what's it for? And I went, I don't know. And I realised I hadn't put a record out for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So I phoned them back and said, what's it for? And they went, Caner of the Year. And but what I did do was and again, the way I live my life is up to me. If I got with it, you know, pretty unscathed. Don't get me wrong; it's cost me every penny. It's pretty, you know, like I said, it's a giant. I call myself successfully unsuccessful. All of this full, but I didn't want to be responsible for one person starting to take drugs or start drinking. So I actually said that I'm not going to accept it. Do you know what I mean? I just don't want it. I'm not going to come and receive it, and I just didn't want to glorify, the drug taking. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I've had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Every line on my face, and I don't know if you can see it during this camera. I look like a tortoise.
You're looking beautifully smooth, beautifully contoured.
It's every line's because I've laughed my head off for 26. Well, actually, my career started in 1987 running parties, so it's been the best part of 35 years.
Yeah.
I never stopped laughing, thinking, how am I getting away with this?
Isn't that gorgeous? Isn't it just gorgeous? But you mentioned something there. I mean, I grew up in, you can probably hear from my accent, Northern Ireland. And so during the Troubles, if you like, and the gay scene. So dance music in Northern Ireland, it actually crossed borders, and it put people in living rooms together and nightclubs together who would have been shooting each other days prior, and drugs was central to that. You've got to call it for what it is. That was the big ecstasy days, and people were doing E's and partying together and all the rest. And I by no means am I glorifying that in any way, but I think sometimes when you talk about this, you have to kind of talk about the silver lining to the cloud sometimes, and there is a flip side to it, isn't there?
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. What you're just saying there, in the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Yeah. You've got to remember as well, back in those days, everything was territorial. Whether it was whether or not it was this estate, that estate. Yeah. Certainly football violence was an epidemic at that stage. You couldn't go to another city without getting into trouble, especially within the football. And then all of a sudden, ecstasy came along. Yeah. Next thing, the terrorist chances are ease are good. Yeah, yeah. You suddenly were going clubbing in Nottingham at the Bomb. You were going to Leeds. You were going back to basics. Sheffield. Every city had clubs, and all of a sudden you could travel to all those clubs without any fear of getting into, like we were just talking there, a territorial argument just because of your accent or where you're from. Do you know what I mean? And for me, we used to always love ending up at a trade. Do you know what I mean? After a good bender out, that was the only place left to go.
For want of a better phrase, of course. There was often a good bender at trade, right?
It needs all those clubs and way things have developed. It's everything's open. Don't get me wrong. You still got homophobia. You still got racism. You still got that. But we've come a long way.
We have, and I definitely think dance music and the dance scene doesn't perhaps get the glory that it deserves for some of the work that it did inadvertently. I mean, I don't think anybody planned to start scrubbing away borders or changing people's perspectives, but it bloody did, and I watched it happen. The height of the 90s in Northern Ireland, you had people from the Protestant side to Catholic side who sworn enemies dancing together, and I worked as a dancer for raves and DJs and stuff like that back in the day when I had a waist. And I would find myself at parties with people, and you think, how the hell am I in a room with these people, and how are they in a room with each other? And the answer was dance music and all the accoutrements that went with it.
Well, you think about all the music that come from those New York house clubs back in the day. Do you know what I mean? And they were just the best places to go. So no, absolutely. Ecstasy, clubbing, house music, dance music, disco music, whatever. Of course, it has. It's had a massive. Yeah, like you said, it doesn't get half the credit it should.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so I read, I believe your daughter's a DJ now, isn't that right? Is it your daughter is a DJ?
Sorry, you just dropped out a little bit because I was on the motorway. Because I'm on the motorway. It's what was that last question?
So am I right in saying your daughter's a DJ now as well? Is that right?
Yeah, she's taken up she's taken her a while to get herself into a place where she's taking it seriously, and now she's really hooked. Do you know what I mean? She's always loved her dance. She's always loved dance music. She's always loved her partying. She loved her raving. but she was never really taking it or putting the time in. And I think she really has started to put the time and effort into it now. And the rewards, she's suddenly getting all the gigs, she's getting the bookings, and the more kind of confidence she's getting, then, the more and more she's getting into it, because she's starting to get adulation and things like that. She's even telling me how to DJ now.
I love that.
She's telling me it's a generational thing. She said, the way I mix is different. It's like, well, yeah, you've got a sync button, darling, and it's all digital, whereas you tried doing that with a, elastic band around a turntable and doing it, having double drops.
I love it. And are you protective daddy? Are you watching her with like a hawk, knowing what goes on?
Listen, she terrifies me. She's tiny, but she can certainly look after herself. Do you know what I mean? And she certainly isn't afraid to tell you what she thinks. She absolutely terrifies me.
Good. I love that. And just to go back on to the mental health charity work and being the patron for that. A lot of our audience are 40 plus. Okay. And, I think we were all brought up the same way, that if it isn't falling off, you're okay. Right. So we don't need to see the doctor unless you're going to die, and mental health, it is getting airtime. People are talking about it. But I think we're talking about it quite often in a way where it's about other people. We talk about other people have mental health issues, other people have depression, other people have neurodivergence. And I just wonder, if you were sitting in a room with somebody sort of 40, 50 years of age, what would you want to say to them about mental health and looking after their mental health? That's a big question, by the way.
I think mental health has obviously always been a massive issue, but like you said, half of it. The biggest problem for most people, and certainly for years, obviously there was a bit of stigma around it.
Yeah,
people didn't want to talk about it. People, they felt ashamed. They didn't feel like they could open up. I think what happened during the pandemic is it affected more people than ever, so that people actually became a little bit more sensitive and open to the effects of mental health and how it can actually affect anybody. So the great thing now, I think, as opposed to in the past, where people just kept quiet about it. Now you need to open up. But I mean, it's much easier said to ask someone. During lockdown, always calling people, especially in the hospitality, music, and arts, because their lives were affected. They were last out, and the government told everybody they were unviable. Blah blah blah. So and by the nature of the industry that we're in, most artists live hand to mouth. Do you know what I mean? Maybe there's a very few percent that make enough money that they could ride that out. So everybody had lost their livelihoods. It really, really did. So I was constantly calling people, making sure, checking, and people weren't. And for the first time ever. But it's always people go quiet. That's when you know something's wrong. It's always when people that so much suddenly go quiet and they go introverted, or you start noticing they're withdrawing. It's kind of like, yes, it's great saying talk about it. The problem is, when you're in that space, you just don't want to talk about it. So you have to be vigilant for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've all had our own mental health issues, I'm sure, over the years. And I know from my own experiences and other people as well, that quite often it's a numbness. So when you talk about depression, people think that you're supposed to feel sad, or that you would know that you're depressed even. But actually quite often, and I was speaking with an author actually who has brought this idea forward. It's a comfortable numb, where your days just become less involved, like you say, sort of a bit more withdrawn, and there's a bit less motivation. And then you're not getting excited about things that you would have got excited about. And before you know it, you're just living this very numb, kind of non-existent existence. And I think that's the danger, is because people are looking for sadness, they're looking to feel sad, they think they're supposed to, that quite often they don't see the slip, the road into it. So yeah, I think we need to get that message out more, don't we?
I think people have got to be speaking. I think you've got to take the time out to you know, exercising, just to going for a walk, just to relaxing your mind, just taking time for yourself. Don't put yourself under so much pressure. Don't, the problem where, again, I know it gets talked about all the time, social media makes everybody's life look fantastic.
Oh gosh,
and obviously it's not, do you know what I mean? And that's been another massive driving factor towards mental health issues, because everyone thinks everybody's living an amazing life. We all know that's not true. That's nowhere near true. People think being in a band's fantastic. It's really not. After you've been doing it 36 years, you spend most of your time in a van, and you perform an hour a day, and then you're back to the hotel or an airport. So there is no such thing as the fantastic or the perfect life. Even, it doesn't matter, all the money in the world isn't going to buy you happiness. It's something that you have to find from within yourself. And just accept. And I said, just take that time out, take that break. You go away, have a look around you, and just enjoy the moment that you're in.
Yeah, gorgeous. And do you know what? I love the simplicity of that message. I think sometimes it gets over academic, and people try to get a wee bit too kind of fancy about it. I just love that simple, what you just said, just take time bloody out for you. Kind of look after yourself the way you'd look after somebody else, isn't it, really? Just give yourself that time. That's gorgeous. Barry, where can people get the tickets for Mucky Weekender?
You can go to the Mucky Weekender website, mucky-weekender.co.uk. If you want to check out the charity that I'm patron of, Tonic Music for Mental Health, which is all about recovery through music. For me, music is the most primitive, basic thing, so it makes complete sense. They have workshops, whether it's musical workshops, they have choirs. Excuse me, losing my voice.
You're
great
okay.
For singer. They have they have peer groups, they have online sessions. So Tonic Music for Mental Health, go check that out if you're so inclined. That's kind of it, really.
Lovely. I've loved chatting to you. And you're coming across on camera, by the way, absolutely gorgeous. Don't be worrying about the lines. You're looking beautiful. And I'm sure all the boys in the back are lovely too, all being very well behaved. Hello, boys. Gosh, they look so excited.
They've all got their headphones. They've all got headphones on, watching movies.
I love it. Well, listen, take the best of care. Please keep me up to date with everything. Anything that we can do to holler out for you, just consider it done. Thank you for
one last thing.
Yes, go ahead.
We forgot to mention the brand new album.
Oh gosh, yes, of course. Tell me about that, Jess.
Yeah, Frontline. It's out on our own label after 20 plus years in the music industry. I decided to put the album, because I've been signed to Universal, I've been signed to Geffen, I've done $1 million deals. I decided it was time to put our next album out, our last album out on my own label. We managed to get to number 3 in the UK charts, totally independently and off our own back, which was brilliant. It's called Frontline.
Hold on, don't just rush past that there. You managed to get it to number 3 in the UK charts independently. Now, not everybody watching this will actually get what that means. Actually, not having that big monster behind you making things happen, there's nothing easy about that.
Well, I think the thing is, at the moment, is that the music industry is fundamentally flawed. In that, if you look at let me just put this in perspective. If you listen to my album 3 times a day for 3 years, that would equate to 1 sale of an album.
Shit.
So that tells you. So if you look at the top 40 charts at any one given week, there's probably 2 or 3 new artists in there. The rest of it, an album charts anyway, are the best of Fleetwood Mac, the best of whatever. So there's very few artists that are actually breaking through, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. That right now the music industry is broken. It's totally dominated by the majors. And like I said, to do what we just did as an independent label, totally is testament to the fan base that we've managed to build up. We're not going to be the next big thing on a certain age. We've become a cult band, do you know what I mean? With a good following, a very loyal fan base, and well, I don't even call them fans because I don't like that. It's more like family to me, you know. So they've had my back for this long. So it's down to them, the love that they've shown us.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was watching an interview with you actually, and you talked about how the industry kind of missed the boat with the downloads thing, where they should have at the beginning jumped on board with the downloads, and they kind of missed out on. They're trying to catch up with an industry that moved without them, kind of thing.
I mean, listen, we would the music industry wouldn't be broken now.
Yeah,
had the majors embraced downloading when it was introduced, like Napster days. Instead, they banned it. They made the only way that you could do so illegal. So people had to illegally download their tracks, which meant that's when music became free, because people got used to downloading music for free.
Yeah,
I honestly believe that nobody out there would have minded giving their favourite band or artist £1 for their record or 50p or whatever. But we now find ourselves in a system that's completely broken, and music's totally devalued as an art form. So it's just a sad place, but we are where we are.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have known any different. You were happy to pay a £5 or a £10 or whatever it was for an album on a CD or a record or a tape. So if it was £4 to download it, you wouldn't have known any different. You just would have done that.
It's become a normal. And everyone would have made probably more money than they've ever made before in their lives, because of the amount of people that do listen to it, do stream. You know, I mean, it would have actually been a lot fairer, and the record companies would have still carried on making their money.
Yeah,
but that's where, and again, this goes back to, and I'm sorry to keep going on, but I remember, I used to have a couple of record shops, and when this was selling underground dance music, vinyl, and this was when majors decided that CD was the new format, and that vinyl was gone, and they stopped it. And yet the records that were getting in the charts because of the majors with the CDs, which was selling, an underground dance record could sell 15, 20,000 copies easy. Right. And they were outselling CDs by loads, but were getting no chart recognition. Do you know what I mean? So it's always been the majors that managed to mess it up every time.
Isn't it mad? It's really mad. But I do think, I mean, I get to interview quite a few musicians. I'm very lucky, speaking to quite a few musicians, and that's the story repeatedly is effectively, in terms of recording music now, there's no money in it, but you do it because that'll get you the gigs effectively. So having the material for the gigs is where the money is.
But again, that whole thing's become a perpetual flaw because of what you just said. Now there's so many bands on the road at any one given time that you could have 5, 6, 7, 8 of the bands that you want to go and see in one city in one night. Sure. And you've got to pick one of them, or because there's so many, and there's only people have only got so much money. Yeah. So it's there's no quick answer, and I don't want to be depressing. I'm lucky enough to be doing it, but you've got to remember why you do it, which is because you love it. Yeah. And then, like I said, I've never, for the grace of God, I've been lucky enough to do it for as long as I have. Yeah. Well, I mean, we see the Actors Guilds out in America at the minute have all taken to the streets, and I think now's the time. With lots of things that society's crazy at the minute, but maybe now is the time to start lobbying, get legislation changed, get this, because somebody's going to change it someday. So maybe the likes of you, Barry, could be the leading the way on this. Believe me, it's not, but it's not for the want of trying. And I've been trying to get some research groups together and some statistics just to show and prove. But obviously, you know what it's like when you're going up against major corporate companies. Trying to fight them is very difficult. The agenda's always on their side. But, that doesn't mean to say we don't stop campaigning. And if you can, go to your Bandcamp, go to your download strike. If you can, download it. If you can buy the physical copy, because like I said to you, it's worth, so many more plays, and that you will have the tangible product, or buy some band merch, if you want to support the band that you're into, then that's the way to do it.
Lovely. Good advice. Barry, you're gorgeous. Honestly, I mean, wherever you are, I'm coming to meet you in the motorway. I'm bringing a carry out with me. I'm yours for the weekend, okay?
Brilliant.
Make sure I get home in one piece. Take the very best of care. Like I say, keep me up to date with everything. And the best of luck. And I think you're ace, and hopefully everybody will support as well.
Big love, brother. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Navigator. Dark days, dark times, filled with gunshots and heinous gun crimes. Man a shot rocks that poison man minds, and a soap opera neither pantomime at the same time. Things ain't never really what it seems, so no for turn a blind eye, cause the truth is an offense, so try face the facts that is a paradox in every paradigm. In the meantime, the world gets so hectic, sick them neglected, poor them rejected. Gentrification broke down with communities, now we homeless, dejected and disconnected. Born political, me no hypocritical, the chosen a few while the rest disaffected. Can't tolerate the bigotry behavior. For my people I pray, because we must find a way.
Hear what I say, life's a psychological game. Hear what I say, yeah. We need to change our ways for brighter days. Hear what I say, the truth remains, the lies and stains. I feel the pain without the gain. We need to fight for change, cause victory favors the brave. Hear what I say.
Contradiction, eviction, a mass drug addiction. Nothing no real again, a play science fiction. Hurricane rain flood out the land, no sanitation, diseases causing affliction. State terrorism, commerce society, materialism. Lie them a tell thief, it plagiarism. Everything turn plastic, even the men and the women. Them a hurt on me head again, earth run red again. Respect the elements, elevate the reverence. War and pollution, mental confusion, global insanity. We need a solution, seek you will find. Devise a new measurement, we deserve some betterment. The whole of we a neighbor, if I not job, then who are we savior? For my people I pray, hey, because we must find a way.
Hear what I say, life's a psychological game. Hear what I say, yeah. We need to change our ways for brighter days. Hear what I say, the truth remains, the lies are staying.